Picture this. You've spent decades paying into Social Security, following every rule, planning your retirement down to the last dollar. Now everything's about to shift. President Trump has just unveiled sweeping changes to Social Security that could put significantly more money in your pocket each month, but there's a catch. New regulations are rolling out that will affect when you claim benefits, how much you receive, and even who qualifies for certain payments. We're talking about adjustments that could mean an extra $200 to $400 monthly for millions of retirees, alongside policy shifts that might completely reshape your retirement strategy. The Social Security Administration is implementing these changes faster than most people realize, and if you're not prepared, you could miss out on thousands of dollars you're entitled to. This isn't speculation or political theater. These are real policy changes affecting real checks that hit your bank account. Whether you're already collecting benefits or planning to file soon, what happens in the next few months will directly impact your financial security for years to come. The clock is ticking, and knowledge is the difference between maximizing your benefits and leaving money on the table. Let me be straight with you. What's happening right now with Social Security isn't just another political headline that'll fade away in a week. This is real, it's happening fast, and it's going to touch the lives of over 70 million Americans who depend on these benefits to pay their bills, buy groceries, and maintain the quality of life they've earned after decades of hard work. The Trump administration has put forward proposals that represent some of the most significant changes to Social Security we've seen in years. And whether you love him or hate him, you need to understand exactly what's on the table because this affects your money, your family, and your future. Now let's talk about the raise first, because that's what everyone wants to hear about, right? The cost of living adjustment, or COLA as it's called, is the annual increase that Social Security recipients receive to help their benefits keep pace with inflation. For 2025, we're looking at a COLA increase that's been announced, but here's where things get interesting. The Trump administration has been pushing for additional measures that could potentially boost benefits beyond the standard COLA formula. They're talking about restructuring how these increases are calculated, possibly using a different inflation index that more accurately reflects what seniors actually spend their money on. Things like healthcare, prescription drugs, and housing costs, rather than the general consumer price index that includes items many retickers don't regularly purchase. This might not sound like a big deal on the surface, but think about it this way. If your Social Security check goes up by even an extra $50 a month because they're using a more accurate measure of your actual expenses, that's $600 a year. Over a decade, that's $6,000. For someone living on a fixed income, that's not pocket change. That's real money that could mean the difference between scraping by and living comfortably. But here's where it gets more complex, and this is the part you really need to pay attention to. Along with these proposed increases, there are rule changes coming down the pipeline that could fundamentally alter how the Social Security system operates. One of the major proposals involves adjusting the retirement age calculations and how early filing penalties are structured. Right now, if you claim Social Security before your full retirement age, which is somewhere between 66 and 67, depending on when you were born, you face a permanent reduction in your monthly benefit. The Trump administration has floated ideas about modifying these penalties, potentially making it less costly to claim early, or offering more flexibility for people who need to access their benefits sooner due to health issues or employment challenges. This is huge for folks who might be struggling to make it to their full retirement age because of physical limitations or job loss. Imagine if you could claim at 62 without taking such a massive hit to your monthly payment. That could open up options for people who are currently stuck between a rock and a hard place, trying to figure out how to survive those last few years before they can claim full benefits. There's also serious discussion happening around the earnings limit for people who continue working while collecting Social Security. Currently, if you're under your full retirement age and you earn more than a certain amount, and in 2025, that threshold is around $2,400, Social Security withholds $1 in benefits for every $2 you earn above that limit. It's a rule that penalizes people for trying to stay productive and supplement their income. And it's frankly outdated for our modern economy, where more and more seniors are choosing or needing to work past traditional retirement age. The proposals on the table include raising this earnings limit substantially or even eliminating it altogether for certain age groups. Think about what that would mean. You could work part-time, bring in some extra income to pad your retirement savings, or pay for those unexpected expenses that always seem to pop up. And you wouldn't be punished by having your Social Security benefits reduced. That's the kind of flexibility that could make a real difference in people's lives, especially for those who are healthy enough and willing to work, but don't want to sacrifice the benefits they've already earned. Now, another element that's generating a lot of buzz involves the taxation of Social Security benefits. This is something that catches a lot of people off guard when they first start receiving benefits. Yes, your Social Security can be taxed depending on your overall income. Currently, if your combined income, which includes your adjusted gross income, any tax-exempt interest, and half of your Social Security benefits exceeds certain thresholds, you could pay federal income tax on up to 85% of your Social Security benefits. For single filers, that threshold starts at just $25,000, and for married couples filing jointly, it's $32,000. Those numbers haven't been adjusted for inflation since they were established back in 1984. Let that sink in for a moment. What seemed like a reasonable income level 40 years ago is completely different in today's economy. The Trump administration has indicated support for raising these thresholds or potentially eliminating the taxation of Social Security benefits altogether. If you're someone who has a modest pension, some savings generating a little interest, and your Social Security check, you could easily find yourself over these thresholds and paying taxes on benefits you've already paid into throughout your working life. Removing or reducing that tax burden would put more money directly into seniors' pockets without the government having to increase the base benefit amount. There's also a lot of attention being paid to spousal and survivor benefits, which are absolutely critical for millions of Americans, particularly women who may have spent years out of the workforce raising children or caring for family members. Under current rules, a spouse can claim up to 50% of their partner's benefit amount, and a widow or widower can receive up to 100% of their deceased spouse's benefit. The proposed changes are looking at ways to enhance these benefits and provide more protection for surviving spouses, who often face a significant drop in household income when their partner passes away. Some proposals include adjusting how these benefits are calculated to account for the increased costs of maintaining a household on a single income, or allowing surviving spouses to combine benefits in ways that aren't currently permitted. For a widow or widower trying to maintain their standard of living after losing their life partner, these changes could provide crucial financial stability during an already difficult time. Let's talk about the disability side of Social Security as well, because that's an area that's ripe for reform and is part of these broader discussions. Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, provides benefits to people who can't work due to a severe medical condition. The application process is notoriously difficult, with denial rates that can be discouraging for people who genuinely need help. There's talk of streamlining this process, updating the medical criteria used to determine disability, and making it easier for people with serious conditions to get the support they need without jumping through endless hoops and waiting years for appeals. This matters because when someone becomes disabled and can't work, every month of delay in getting benefits can push them deeper into financial crisis. Reforms that speed up the process and make it more transparent would be a genuine improvement for some of the most vulnerable people in our society. Another aspect that's getting attention involves the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. These are two rules that reduce Social Security benefits for people who also receive pensions from jobs that didn't pay into Social Security, like certain government positions or jobs in some states where employees paid into different retirement systems. These rules have been controversial for years because they can significantly reduce the Social Security benefits that people earned through other jobs where they did pay Social Security taxes. many people feel blindsided when they discover that their Social Security check is much smaller than they expected because of these provisions. There's been growing momentum to repeal or modify these rules, and the current administration has shown some openness to reform in this area. For the millions of public servants, teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other government workers, this could mean recovering thousands of dollars in benefits they thought they'd lost. Now, I want to address something really important here: the funding question. You've probably heard concerns about Social Security running out of money, and those concerns aren't entirely unfounded. The Social Security Trust Fund has been paying out more in benefits than it collects in taxes for several years now, and current projections suggest that without changes, the trust fund reserves could be depleted within the next decade or so. When people hear about benefit increases and rule changes that could cost more money, the natural question is, how are we going to pay for this? The proposals include several potential funding mechanisms, everything from raising the cap on wages subject to Social Security taxes, which currently sits at $168,600 for 2024, to finding efficiencies in how the program is administered, to redirecting funds from other areas of the federal budget. Some proposals even involve adjusting how benefits are calculated for higher earners, while protecting or enhancing benefits for lower and middle-income recipients. The point is, these aren't just pie-in-the-sky ideas, with no thought given to sustainability. There's serious policy work happening around how to implement these changes in a way that strengthens Social Security for the long term, rather than hastening its financial troubles. It's also worth noting that these changes won't happen overnight, and they won't all happen exactly as initially proposed. This is how our government works. Proposals get made, debated, negotiated, modified, and eventually some version of them might become law. That process involves Congress, where both chambers would need to pass legislation, and it involves input from advocacy groups, policy experts, and millions of Americans who depend on Social Security. What we're seeing right now is the beginning of that conversation, and it's important for you to understand what's being discussed so you can make your voice heard if these issues matter to you. Your representatives in Congress need to hear from constituents about how these changes would affect real lives, not just see them as abstract policy debates. So, what should you be doing right now while all of this is unfolding? First, don't make any hasty decisions about when to claim your benefits based on proposed changes that haven't been enacted yet. The rules that exist today are the rules you need to plan around until actual legislation passes and is signed into law. Second, stay informed through reliable sources. The Social Security Administration's website, reputable news outlets, and maybe even consultations with a financial advisor who specializes in retirement planning. Third, consider how different scenarios might affect your personal situation. If earnings limits are raised or eliminated, does that change your thinking about working part-time in retirement? If taxation thresholds are increased, how does that affect your overall retirement tax planning? These are questions worth considering even before final rules are set, because it helps you be prepared to act quickly when and if changes do occur. The bottom line is this: Social Security is entering a period of potential transformation, and these changes could have profound effects on your retirement security and quality of life. Whether we see a significant raise through reformed COLA calculations, more flexibility in claiming strategies, reduced taxation of benefits, or enhanced protections for spouses and survivors, the direction seems to be toward making the system more responsive to the actual needs of today's retirees. But with opportunity comes responsibility. The responsibility to stay informed, to understand how proposed changes might affect you personally, and to plan accordingly. This isn't something you can afford to ignore or put off until later. The decisions being made in Washington right now will determine what your Social Security check looks like, not just next year, but for the rest of your retirement. So pay attention, ask questions, and make sure you're positioning yourself to take full advantage of whatever changes ultimately come down the pipeline.